Hi everybody, Kendra Fitzgerald here. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for watching. Today we have a workout focused on the glute medius, which is one of your deep glute muscles that is a super important hip stabilizer, especially for all of your runners out there. You gotta have strong glute medius muscles, so this workout is great for you. You guys know what an anatomy nerd I am, and if you don't know that yet, you soon will. I like to show you where your muscles are so you know exactly what you're working, what you should be feeling, and what the muscles are doing. So today we're talking about the glute medius. The glute medius runs from the top of your iliac crest and the back of your hips down to the greater trochanter of your femur, your leg bone. I'm going to use this resistance band to mimic what a muscle would look like. Good thing it's red. So we're going to take the muscle to underneath your iliac crest, so it runs just above the bottom of your hip, and then it gathers together and connects onto the top of your greater trochanter, right? So you can kind of see what it looks like there in the front of the hip. It runs pretty deep in those deep hip muscles, right? So if you were to contract that muscle, the resistance band would get closer together, would get tighter, and it would bring the greater trochanter towards the iliac crest, right? And then we have the anterior fibers, the front fibers, the medial fibers, and the posterior fibers. This muscle is essential for really great hip stabilization, and especially for runners. You need that hip stabilization every time you hit the pavement. You need those outer glute muscles to engage to keep you from listing from one side to the other too much. Keep this visual in mind as we go through the workout. For today's workout, you'll need a yoga mat and a block or access to a stair. So coming down to your side, we're going to find that glute medius first before we start activating it. So bring your right knee down to the floor, bend that knee so it's almost acting like a kickstand, and press your right elbow down into the floor. So you want your elbow and your knee in line. Then we're going to press your hips up and forward so that you're balancing on your knee, your hip, and your shoulder are all in the same plane, right? So stay here for just a couple of breaths and see what you feel in this bottom hip. Right, we looked at the anatomy earlier. It should feel like the bottom of your hip crest down to your greater trochanter, almost like you were putting your hands in your side pockets. If you had side pockets, it's that muscle right there. So see if you can feel that activity. Press your bottom knee down into the floor, and then a slight modification with your shoulder. Press this top arm forward slightly so you're feeling more engagement in your side abs and your shoulder. Right? That'll help you support and get more access to those glute medius muscles. Good. So by now, hopefully you're starting to feel this engage, right? Sometimes we got to wake up those muscles and just tell them like, hey, we're going to work before we start working them. Good. And then drop your hips down to the floor. We'll do the other side. So you can swing around. Bottom knee comes down to the floor, bottom elbow down, knee and elbow in line. Scoop your hips up and forward. And right leg extends out, right? So you're shifting the hips forward. Shoulders, hips, and knees are in the same plane. So stay here, feel that outer hip. You'll probably feel the first side that you did also, because once they're engaged, they love to turn on and they're just like, yep, I'm here. So you'll probably feel it in these pocket muscles here on the side of your hips, right? So one modification here that I want you to look for is when you're lifting, you want to scoop your hips forward, right? So you're getting that outer hip. If you're pitched too far back, you're going to get more hip flexors, and it's going to feel like tight in the front of your leg, and you're working more of your TFL, right? And the front hip flexors instead of your glute medius, which is where you really want to have it. So make sure that you're shifting your hips forward, not sitting back in your hips, right? Shift it forward. Good. So stay on that same side that you're on for just a couple of more breaths. Keep shifting your hips forward. Press that left elbow down into the floor so you feel that outer left oblique engage. Good. You might be shaking already. These muscles are so weak, we never use them unless you're doing work like this. Good. And then drop your hips all the way down to the floor. Awesome. Go back over to the first side. Bring your right knee down to the floor. Right elbow down. We'll scoop the hips up, come into this modified side leg lift position is what I like to call it. So scoop your hips up, press your bottom knee down into the floor. Remember, scoop the hips forward, and then this top leg presses back towards the wall behind you, right? So we're trying not to have this forward motion like this, right, where we're working our glutes and too much hip flexor. Press your hips forward, that top leg back, and I guarantee you'll feel it more in that bottom hip and the top hip too, right? Especially as you kick that leg back. Good. So stay on that right side, lifting your left foot, and then we'll do little drops from here with the top leg. So inhale the left leg down, exhale left. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. We'll do 15. Exhale. Exhale 5. Exhale 6. Are you feeling it yet? Exhale 7. Exhale 8. Should feel it in the side of your hips. Exhale 9. And 10. You want to work up to 30 of these. 11 and 12. 13. Keep kicking that top leg back. 14 and 15. Good. Drop your hips down. Awesome. And then switch to the other side. It does not take much to activate those glute medius muscles. Like I said, we don't use them very often, so when we do go to use them, they're like on fire, right? So bottom knee is down, left knee is down. Elbow, hips, and knees are in the same plane, right? And it's good that your knee is farther away from your hips, right? You don't want to be here, because then you can't get on the outside of your knee. Right? So come to that side plank position, tuck your tailbone under, right? Feel those outer hips, that glute medius from the crest of your iliac crest down to the greater trochanter. Good, and then from here, press that top leg back, 15 leg lifts. 1, exhale lift, 2, 3, 4. If you're not feeling it in your butt, take that leg back, that top leg back. 7, 8, 9, good, press that bottom knee down, 10, 11, 12, 13, are you shaking yet? 14, one more, 15, good, awesome, good, good. So this is one exercise that you can do every single day, work up to 30 or 40, really get that deep hip strength going, and it's one that will probably always feel kind of challenging because we don't do this movement in our everyday lives. But the more you do it, the more number you can do. You will always feel them. The next exercise we're going to do is a hip hike, and you'll need either your block or a step or a stair. So you're going to take your one foot onto the block, stand here. You can choose to hold onto a wall if you need to. This standing leg is going to stay perfectly straight. So not jammed back into the joint, but just slightly bent. Take your hands on your hips, and you're going to drop into the standing leg hip. So almost like you were poking out your hip, doing like a Betty Boop kind of thing. You can feel that glute medius stretching and expanding. And then use that glute medius muscle to lift your left hip towards your left shoulder. And then drop your left foot down and then lift all the way out. So what this is called is lateral lifting, right? So we are hiking the hip down and then seeing how high you can lift that left hip towards your left shoulder by using this glute medius muscle. And then drop down and then lift up. So we do about 10 to 15 on each side. I'll let you choose how many you do because it's very personal. You will probably feel this really quickly. And I want you to think about tucking your tailbone under a little bit so we avoid pitching back this way and going in and out, because then you're using more of your deep glutes. So I'll show you from the side what this looks like. Keep going on your hip hikes. So you're sinking into that hip and then using those glute medius muscles to lift the other hip up. Good, dropping down with control and then lifting up. I find usually about 10 to 15 of these is kind of max. You start feeling a little shaky and definitely engaged. So keep in mind those. Good, do about 5 more here. Good, you can exhale as you lift that left hip. Ooh, are you guys feeling it yet? You should be feeling it. These moves are so simple, but they are so hard. But they are also so good for deep hip stabilization. Good, do 2 more here. Nice, 1 more. Good, shake it out. Oh, you need that shake. Good, good. And then go to the other side. So left foot on the block or the stair, hands on your hips. Make sure you're tucking your tailbone under, staying connected to your core so you're moving laterally and not too much forward and back. All right. Then we drop into that left hip, press out, drop your right foot down to the floor. Remember, the standing leg stays straight. And then use that glute medius to lift your right hip towards your right shoulder. And then drop all the way back down. Yeah. Good. Squeeze that outer left hip. And then drop back down. So go with control, right? You can make these pretty slow, steady movements. I'm a firm believer that not everything has to be fast and furious. In fact, if everything is fast and furious, we lose a lot of the delicacy and the intricacies of how our body works. Good. Keep dropping down into your hips. And then lift up and out. Good. Inhale, drop down. And exhale, lift. Good. One more. Good. Keep going. Yeah, do as many as you can with good form. If you start feeling your form slip, then stop and shake it out. I tend to give ranges of the number of exercises to do in this type of work because every body is different. You want to aim for like 10 to 15, but if you get to 8 and your hips are sliding all over the place and you can't hold the form, then 8 is where you should stay, right? It can give you a goal, but really listen to your body and see what's happening. Stay really connected to your own form. Do 2 more here. Lifting that right hip up. Ooh, feel that burn. And 1 more all the way up. Nice, good, shake it out. Now we're gonna take a modified squat that mimics a single leg squat, but really gets you deep in those outer hip and the glute medius muscles. So find a baseboard, and you're gonna put your foot against the edge of the baseboard, so you're pressing out into the wall and down into the floor. Take the foot on the wall a little further forward of your back foot, and then your feet are a little wider than hip distance apart to go into the squat. Before you get started, think of lifting your inner arches. Press your feet away from each other, and already you'll feel your outer hips and those glute medius engage, right? And especially since we just did all that other work, you'll definitely feel it right out of the gate. So from here, we're going to keep our upper body nice and quiet. We're going to inhale into a squat. Release your pelvic floor when you go down. Press your feet out, knees out. Exhale, squeeze and lift your pelvic floor. Press your feet away from each other. Good. Inhale, squat back. Think of your tailbone moving back. Feet are pressing out. Exhale, come up. Press the feet away from each other. Inhale down. Exhale, press up. So you're thinking of sitting into a chair that someone was about to pull out from behind you. So not tucking and rounding, but sending the hips back. Press the feet out as you come up. 10 to 15 here. Inhale down. This is 4. Exhale, come up. Good. Inhale down. Keep pressing your feet away from each other through the whole movement. Good. Inhale down. Exhale up. I know you guys are feeling it. I am too. Exhale, lift. Good. Keep going on your breath. A note here about head position. Draw your chin back towards your chest. Keep your head nice and long and the back of your neck long as you're breathing here. You'll find a better core connection if you keep your chin back. Exhale, press up and lift. These are so hard. They look so easy, but they are so hard. I know you guys are feeling it. Good. 3 more here. Exhale, lift. Good. Inhale. Exhale, lift. 1 more. Inhale. And exhale, lift. Yes. Feel those outer glutes. Good. Shake your hips out. And we'll do the other side. The second side, I'm going to change my angle a little bit so you guys can see my feet. But right foot against the baseboard, so slightly in front of your left foot. Press your legs out to get started, right? So you're going to stand all the way up. And then inhale, press down. Press your feet away from each other. Exhale, come up to stand. Good. Inhale, drop down. And exhale, lift. Good. Inhale, drop down. Press your legs out. Exhale, lift. Nice. I know your hips are so shaky. Exhale, lift. Keep that tension on your legs, pressing out as you come down and up. Inhale, release the pelvic floor. Exhale, come up and lift. Good, inhale down, exhale lift. Oh my gosh, you guys, my hips are on fire. Yours too? Exhale, come up. Good, one more, inhale and exhale. Awesome. Good, shake your hips out. A great glute medius stretch is to take one leg behind the other. So take your right leg behind your left, and then take both arms in like butterfly fingers all the way up overhead. And we're going to press your weight into your right hip, rotate your shoulders slightly forward, and then think of rotating that back leg slightly in. Good, and then sit into that outer hip. So you really feel that stretch from your iliac crest down to the greater trochanter. Push that back foot into the floor. You'll probably feel this in your back too. It's an awesome QL stretch and shoulder stretch too. Great post-run stretch. Good, come back out, drop your arms, switch the cross of your thumbs. Take the left leg behind the right, reach both arms all the way up overhead. And then dropping towards the right, rotate your shoulders slightly forward, and then press your left foot into the floor. Good, feel that stretch from the top of the iliac crest down to your greater trochanter. Good. One more breath here. Good, come all the way back up. Awesome. So for this one, we're gonna bend the knees. Take your left elbow down to your left knee. Take your right hand onto your right hip. A little bit like Twister. Keep your left leg bent. You're going to straighten your right leg and press that right hip back towards the wall behind you. Now open your chest, right? Send your chest back, send your hip back, and then look over your right shoulder. Maybe. If it feels like too much stress on your neck, you can just look straight forward. Press your right leg down into the floor. Feel an outer hip stretch all along the outer glute. Good. And we'll go to the other side. So bend your right knee, take right elbow to your right knee, left hand onto your left hip. And then open towards your left leg, straighten your left leg, and open your hip. Send your left hip back. Yes. Good, deep breaths here. Should feel a big stretch all the way down your left leg and into your left hip. Awesome. And then come back to the center, take your hands on your hips, and then fold all the way forward over your legs. Good, shake your head yes, shake your head no. And then heel toe your feet together. Take the right foot behind your left foot. So this is what we did before with standing. Walk your hands over to the left side of your mat and then press your left foot into the floor. So you feel this whole outer hip stretching. You might feel your hamstring of the left leg also. Good, one more breath here. Good, and then walk your hands back to the center. Right foot back to center. Left leg behind your right. Fold forward of your legs. If you want to come up to blocks, you can certainly pad your hands with blocks. That's a really great option if your hands don't reach the floor. And then take both hands over to the right side of your mat, drop your head, and press into your back leg. Good, 2 more breaths here. Good. And then take your left foot back to meet your right, and bring your knees down to the floor. An important part of every strengthening routine is an equal release routine as well. So I want you to get a small tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, and we're gonna roll out the glute medius a little bit with this ball. So 2 options for this. You can either do it at the wall if being on the floor feels too intense on those muscles because it's all of your body weight on the ball. If you wanna do it on the wall, I'll show you how to do that in just a second. It's a little less intense and a little more control. And if you can't get down on the floor, it's a great option too. So you're gonna take the ball and put it in that little pocket that I showed you on Mr. Bones, the skeleton, below the iliac crest, and we're gonna roll all the way down to the greater trochanter. So you can kind of feel your greater trochanter there. It's like a bony knob right there on the outside of your hip. So we wanna roll around in that little pocket right there. So you're gonna lay on the ball. This is pretty intense. So if it feels, it will probably feel, pretty intense. If it feels too intense or it feels nervy, do it at the wall instead, or just kind of lay off of it a little bit. You're gonna roll back and forth on that glute medius. Whew, there are definitely some trigger points in there, especially if you're a runner. You're definitely gonna feel lots of trigger points in there. Just go with it. If you find a place that feels really triggery, kind of hang out on it, let your leg relax. Notice if you tend to tense that right leg, the leg that you're rolling out, because your muscles are trying to protect, and you're either doing too much or trying to get out of it. So relax your right leg, kind of hang out on any tight spots. And then imagine that muscle, right, that I showed you earlier is the one that we're trying to work out. So you can either go with the grain of the muscle, which is up and down, or you can go cross friction across the muscle, forward and back. Good. All right. Good, and if you want a little extra, you can go on the back of the hip and get into the piriformis and glute max and all those other great stabilizing hip muscles. Good, and then we'll go to the other side. So take the ball out and flip-flop. Take the ball into that little crest there, so just below the iliac crest and in between the greater trochanter. You don't want to run over your greater trochanter. If you hit any bony spots, stay below and above the bony spots. So that bottom leg is bent. Come onto the ball. It's also great upper body strength because you got to hold yourself while you're rolling. And then notice again if you feel any triggering or any hot spots. You can also come down onto your elbow, which will make it a little bit more intense, right? Kind of roll forward and back. Ooh, yeah. Go up to the iliac crest, so you want to go forward and back on the iliac crest, below the iliac crest. And then again, you can go either with the muscle fibers up and down, or you can go cross friction forward and back. If you're doing this glute medius ball release at the wall, if it's too intense to be on the floor, take the ball and you're going to put it on your hip. So remember, just below that iliac crest in the little meaty part of your tush, and you're going to lean against the wall on the ball. All right, so you can use your body weight and then relax that standing leg, the leg that's the same side that you're releasing, and roll up and down on your hip. Right, so you're going from the bottom of the iliac crest to the top of the greater trochanter. The same thing applies as what we were doing on the floor. You can either go with the grain of the muscle, going up and down, or you can get some cross fiber friction and go forward and back. Good. Nice. Do that about 5 or 6 times, and then you can move to the other side. So sit the ball right in that little pocket of your hip, and we'll lean against the wall. Right, find that juicy spot, and then the leg of the hip we're releasing is relaxed. Right, rock forward and back, rock up and down. Get into that hip flexor. Get into that outer hip. Sometimes being at the wall can be a little easier to control the movement. If you feel like it's really wonky or it's hard to find it on the floor, this is a really great way to start. Good. Awesome. Oof, find those really triggery spots. Good, and then you can come away from the wall. And we'll end with a child's pose that is meant to just open up the whole hip complex. So come onto your hands and knees. We're going to tuck the tailbone under, press back into a child's pose, press through your mid-back. So you're actually rounding your spine here. And then press your elbows down to the floor, press your hands forward, and drop your chin towards your chest. Full breaths here into your back, releasing your hips. You can even slightly push your shins down into the floor, which will help you get more rounding in your back. I find that sometimes when we do glute max and glute medius work, the paraspinals on either side of the spine will start to overactivate, like we get an arch in our back, and this just helps calm them down. Tell them that it's okay to relax. Good. Take 2 more breaths here. Relax your shoulders, relax your head. Press your hands into the floor like you're pushing them away from your knees. Good. And then release it and come all the way up to sit. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this workout. Make sure you hit the subscribe button at the bottom of this video and hit the notifications bell to make sure you're notified every single time I launch a video. Thanks so much for watching. Be healthy, be well. I'll see you soon.